Real quickly before we jump into the video, I want to let you guys know something we're doing over on my Twitter. I know we just did a little giveaway of an Elgato, but this time we're actually doing something that I had some leftover goodies from the actual reveal event. So if you guys want to check that out, I'm giving away a few things from that being a poster, a t-shirt, a keychain, and a rally towel. If you guys want to check that out, link is in the description below to the tweet. All you have to do is retweet and follow to enter, and I'll be picking the winner at the end of the week. I ended up getting 2 of each, so honestly, I don't need double of everything, so I figured I'd give away some stuff to anybody that was interested. So that link is again in the description below to the tweet if you guys want to go check that out. But that said, let's jump into the regularly scheduled content. I'll be totally honest with you, I was not expecting to make so many different videos across so many different games the past couple of days, but there's just been so much content that's come out for Black Ops 4, for Call of Duty World War II coming up potentially, and then of course the rumor now we're going to be talking about in this one for Modern Warfare 4 that I'm just feeling like I'm playing catch up in a perpetual loop. So I apologize if this is sort of a recap for some people, but today we're going to talk about a little bit of a rumor going around right now dealing with Infinity Ward, the studio, their future plans for the Call of Duty franchise, and what we may see in Call of Duty 2019, which is kind of weird because Call of Duty 2018 is still just in its first early infancy stages of when we end up seeing everything. I mean, last week we just got our first debut look at the gameplay and the even relative setting and time frame of the game itself. Up until last week, we knew nothing essentially about Black Ops 4 other than the name. So it's really weird that we get this kind of stuff happening as of this early, but it's still stuff to talk about nonetheless. So again, playing a little bit of a recap, maybe catch up in a sense, but that said, let's just jump right into it. So first things first, one thing that I really take away from the last couple of years is that, well, Infinity Ward has kind of been on the rocks because there's not all that much out of Infinite Warfare or say out of Ghost. The community really was all up in arms with praise about. It was more so up in arms with dissatisfaction. So that's something that Infinity Ward has been, of course, having to actively look for what they can do to get back on the right track in terms of the community feedback with their next title. And one thing that a lot of people will necessarily always point to is just continue what sells the best. And what a lot of people even say Black Ops 4 was there for was just because of the name. So that said, Modern Warfare 4 has been rumored for quite some time. Even before Infinite Warfare, people thought that it would be Modern Warfare 4, but look how that turned out. It did not turn out as such, but with 2 games that are relatively questionable within community feedback, it is only natural that we now start to see the rumors again crop up of Modern Warfare 4, and it actually might have some validity behind it, which is the craziest part. Now, firstly, right off the bat, we'll say that there was something dealing with Craig Fairbrass, who ended up playing a couple of COD characters throughout the Modern Warfare campaign. Firstly, Gaz, then Ghost, then he played Wallcroft in Modern Warfare 3, and then he was in Infinite Warfare for some additional voices that he's just credited for additional voices. So probably some helping roles here and there, some yelling and shouting that happens in the voice acting, but the guy has his place and roots in Modern Warfare most definitely in a lot of different places. So if he were to be a part of a new game, he'd probably be contracted for something to do with the Infinity Ward next project. And this is where it starts to get interesting because a couple of months back, he actually had it in his Twitter bio, MW1, 2, 3, and 4. So up until this point, of course, we had no indication that a Modern Warfare 4 would happen in any way, shape, or form, but this was something that seemingly pointed to a little bit of a source. Somebody tied to the Modern Warfare series, tied to Infinity Ward Call of Duty titles, and then having that in there. Some people dismissed it immediately as his take on a different title, such as maybe Ghost or Infinite Warfare being a part of that Modern Warfare story arc in that universe, where some people dismissed it as such, but other people saw it as a clear point towards a Modern Warfare 4. But old news aside, the newest stuff that came out is the stuff that really starts to get those gears turning, because we ended up seeing the Infinity Ward development team from the early days ended up leaving. They left due to a lawsuit that happened ages ago, and so they ended up creating the development studio Respawn, which is known for Titanfall, Titanfall 2, and so that was their next project after Infinity Ward and their departure from the Activision umbrella. However, as of recently, it's been reported that a numerous handful of those people actually ended up coming back to Infinity Ward. Now, we don't obviously know for what reason. Maybe it's something that the positions are much better because, well, if you get offered more cash and a job that you love doing, obviously if you love doing your job and you're gonna get paid more, well, it's a no-brainer to come back to or go to a different position. But that said, 8 of these roles that are actually quite high in Infinity Ward ended up getting filled by former Respawn developers and who once again once worked at Infinity Ward. So those being Jeffrey Smith, who's a former designer designer at Infinity Ward, then he moved to Respawn to become a lead game designer, and now he's the multiplayer design director at Infinity Ward. Then we had Joel Emsley, who was a former art lead at Infinity Ward, moved to Respawn to be an art director, and then he's now coming back to Infinity Ward as studio art director at Infinity Ward. Mark Grigsby, he was the former lead animator at Infinity Ward, then he moved to Respawn for the same position, but now he's back as the animation director at Infinity Ward, so a little bit higher up on that food chain. Brandon Serrano was a former senior animator at Respawn, and now he's coming to Infinity Ward to be a senior animator. John Mundy was a senior game designer at Respawn, and he's now the senior game designer at Infinity Ward. Joshua Dunham was a former senior environment artist at Respawn, and now he's a senior environment artist at Infinity Ward. Don McCarthy was a former producer at Respawn, and now he's the producer at Infinity Ward, and Madison Cromwell was the former art producer at Respawn and is currently the associate producer at Infinity Ward now. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the rankings and everything within studios, but those are some pretty high up positions that are getting filled. Now granted, there were a lot of people that did leave after Infinite Warfare, whether that be voluntary or involuntary due to the reception and the year that Infinite Warfare had. We don't know exactly, but there were some spots that did need to be filled, but this seems like a whole lot of people that are already experienced with the Call of Duty brand and also with Infinity Ward as a studio coming to fill those higher up positions once again. So it's quite interesting that in this point in everything that's going on within Call of Duty, we see some prominent figures coming back for what may be the next title, because this is something that if people join on, they still have a lot of time to work on the next project. We're still obviously a year out from when the next reveal is supposed to happen, so there's a lot of time to perfect the craft, to perfect the campaign, to perfect the absolute basic building blocks of the game, and of course, in these more higher up positions, to direct where things may be going, to direct how the workflow may need to be handled. So this is something that to me is a lot more interesting than that of Craig Fairbrass's potential leak over on Twitter. This holds a lot more gravity and weight to it in my books. Now, another interesting tidbit, before he left, Eric Hirshberg, the former CEO of Activision, back in February said that the upcoming 3-year Call of Duty slate would be the best in franchise history. And he said that there were many worlds intact in Call of Duty that players would love. Now, that's something that of course could pertain to World War II, going back to boots on the ground, going back to those origins that we end up seeing within Call of Duty and what a lot of people really yearned for the past 3 years with the advanced movement cycle. But then that also could pertain to the Black Ops series being revitalized with Black Ops 4, whether or not that was something that was just playing on the name, or if there was some sort of notion that maybe we'd end up seeing in some way, shape, or form the return of some of the beloved characters from the campaign, and of course we had zombies as well. But that also could mean Modern Warfare 4, because that's one of the worlds in Call of Duty that will more than likely never die. You could rattle off all the main characters of the Modern Warfare series, and their names will probably be picked up in an instant by any fans that either played the game or even knew a little bit about Call of Duty in general. That's an iconic universe and story arc, so if that is something in which they really want to solidify those next 3 years as of whenever World War II was first announced and whenever this announcement happened with Eric Hirshberg back in February, one of the most perfect ways to make sure that you do that is to have something that goes back to the roots with Call of Duty World War II, but also the 2 following years hit on the biggest and most iconic story arcs in the entire franchise of Call of Duty. Because again, the 2 that rival each other are Black Ops and Modern Warfare. So if you can end up having those back to back once again, just like the good old days where you had Modern Warfare 1, 2, 3, with the alternating years of Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 also in there, man, Activision would sell so many copies of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, it would actually be insane. I guarantee that it would almost rival that of, if not exceed, Modern Warfare 3's record numbers, in which that broke 1 billion in sales in the first couple of days. I guarantee that it would either come close, if not exceed that, if you announce a Modern Warfare 4. That'd be something that absolutely would rejuvenate hype, and I can almost guarantee you that if you stick to the mold of the Modern Warfare series, you couldn't mess it up. And here's the thing too, is there's actually story that could be behind this. Of course, yes, we end up killing Makarov, we finish that, we tie that loose end up, but the one thing that I always come back to is you can, 1, do a prequel storyline, 2, you can break it apart into doing different stories for either surviving members or, again, individually prequel stories for, say, Captain Price. Or as a third option, you could still explore some of the narrative that didn't have the loose ends tied up. The one that I always come back to is after Modern Warfare 2, after you kill General Shepard, sure, you took him down, but the entire cabal of the Shadow Company, it's just kind of like, well, I mean, I guess they're gone, you know, they got nothing else to do. But really, you could expand that narrative into being so much more. You could hunt them down and try and continue that story arc. So there's so much that could be done with a Modern Warfare 4, and realistically, with all these people coming back, and of course on top of the Craig Fairbrass little leak over on Twitter, I'm very hopeful that this is in fact the case. Again, it is way too early to tell, but it is something that did happen. It is something that is out there in the world for you guys to check out. They did come back to Infinity Ward after leaving for Respawn from Infinity Ward, so they've returned home in a sense, and I'm excited to see what this may mean for the next year. So that said, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Just wanted to give a little discussion here on this because, again, I'm playing catch up, and I do apologize. This is a little bit older of a story now compared to when things are normally like relative on an update channel or something where we talk about what's new in Call of Duty. So I do apologize in that sense, but I wanted to get it out there because this is just something that I'm super excited about, and so I couldn't just let this one slide. So hopefully you guys understand, hopefully you guys enjoy. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Are you guys looking forward to a Modern Warfare 4 if it does happen? Are you guys hoping it happens? And if so, what do you think the storyline or story arc could be for this one? Love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding Call of Duty World War II, Black Ops 4, and potentially Modern Warfare 4 as well. If you guys are interested in any of that, make sure that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get character mounts that I YouTube, practically live on Twitter. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. And also, if you guys want to follow me over on Instagram, try to get more active over there, so that link is as well in the description below. But all that said, hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you all so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. Take care. Peace.